What if I told you that in today's society, foolishness isn't just accepted, it's applauded? Being loud, superficial, and deliberately uninformed has somehow become a shortcut to fame, influence, and even authority. Reflect on it. When was the last time deep thought went viral? When did complexity trend? We exist in a culture where the emptiest personalities dominate public attention, where 15-second videos gain more attraction than reasoned debates, where millions flock to content that demands no effort to understand and even less to question. This isn't just some passing trend, it's a structural transformation. We've built a society that rewards hollow amusement over intellectual depth, a world where witty memes replace rational discourse, where quick, flashy content is valued above meaningful dialogue. Public discussion was once an arena for debate, disagreement, and wrestling with ideas. Now it's a war zone of slogans, reactions, and fleeting distractions. We scroll past philosophy for pranks. We bypass expert analysis for trending sounds. The sad part is, this isn't accidental. Popular culture doesn't just mirror our values, it shapes them. The media we consume, the influencers we idolize, the posts we engage with, all teach us one thing. It's better to be agreeable than informed, quicker to emote than to think, far more profitable to remain shallow than serious. Algorithms don't care for truth, they care for attention. The result? A society trained not to think, but to react, not to question, but to consume. And in time, this consumption rewires what we find meaningful, what we admire, and ultimately, who we listen to. You may think this is harmless, just fun, just a distraction. But when a culture rewards ignorance, ignorance becomes strategy. People quickly realize dumbing down, oversimplifying, or faking stupidity can become a marketable brand. YouTube thumbnails burst with exaggerated faces. Politicians speak in slogans, not policy. Viral posts are rarely true, but always loud. And all of it signals to the young, complexity is boring, intelligence is pretentious. Ask yourself, when did we start confusing noise for wisdom? When did visibility become our measure of worth? The truth is unsettling. We live in a system that doesn't just tolerate stupidity, it profits from it, promotes it, glorifies it. If we fail to recognize this pattern, we'll wake up in a world where thinking deeply is seen as weakness, not strength, where intellect is discarded as obsolete, where the shallow don't just survive, they prevail. But it gets even darker. Today, ignorance isn't just accepted or praised, it's strategically engineered. We've entered an age where being uninformed isn't a drawback, but a careful tactic. The rise of the dumb yet wealthy persona isn't random. It's a calculated act, a performance crafted to appear approachable, harmless, and amusing. And it pays handsomely in followers, endorsements, power. In a world where attention is currency, acting foolish becomes an economic edge. Look around. Those who get the most exposure aren't the wisest, they're the most shocking. Outrage, not expertise, drives clicks. Shock value wins over substance. And behind the scenes lurks a sobering truth. Authenticity is worth less than virality. Why build wisdom when noise earns more? Why offer insight when exaggeration spreads faster? We've built a media system where the smartest choice is to act dumb, and millions are following. This has bred a deeper cultural disease, anti-intellectualism. We don't just ignore thinkers, we distrust them. Experts are branded as elitist, scientists mocked as out of touch, intellectuals dismissed as irrelevant. Those who dedicate their lives to understanding complex issues are sidelined for being too serious, too complicated, or worst of all, not entertaining. It's a quiet war against depth, fought with memes, laughter, and viral trends. Social media is the battleground. These platforms are designed to reward speed over reflection, emotion over evidence. Short, loud, emotional content spreads fastest because it's easier to digest. A sarcastic reel will always beat a nuanced explainer. Conspiracy theories get more attention than peer-reviewed facts. Why? Because truth requires effort, lies do not. And in a dopamine-addicted world, ease always wins. We've built a system that punishes complexity and glorifies simplicity, no matter how false or harmful that simplicity is. We aren't just dumbing down, we're monetizing stage stupidity. And this performance is everywhere. Fake lifestyles, fabricated drama, constructed personas gaining millions of followers for offering only superficiality. Meanwhile, the thinkers, the educators, the truth-tellers are buried under the noise. Too complex, too slow, too inconvenient for the scroll. Ask yourself, when did we begin rewarding ignorance? When did not knowing become comforting? The grim truth is we've raised a generation to believe it's not knowledge that counts, but how entertaining your ignorance appears. And once stupidity becomes a brand, a business, and a badge of honor, there's no incentive left for truth, only attention. But let's go even deeper. Why does shallow content not only survive but flourish? Why is it so irresistible to skip the complex for the silly, the sensational, the stupid? The answer isn't just cultural, it's psychological. In a chaotic world, simplicity offers something we're all silently craving: control. Life today is overwhelming. Unpredictable economies, shifting identities, complex crises we barely comprehend. In that storm of confusion, simplicity becomes seductive. A shallow post that confirms our biases. A joke that helps us avoid hard truths. A 10-second clip demanding nothing, no thought, no effort, just instant relief. The shallower the content, the more it gives us the illusion we're in control, that we get it, that we aren't lost. Psychologists call this the fluency effect. The easier something is to process, the more we trust it. Our brains reward simplicity, not for its truth, but because it feels good. In an information-overloaded environment, anything complex feels like friction, and we begin to avoid friction unconsciously. We pick content that feels effortless. We laugh rather than reflect. We react rather than pause. Gradually, we lose the appetite for anything requiring deep thought. Humor becomes our armor. We joke about everything: politics, health, even our existential dread. Not because it's funny, but because it's easier than facing the weight. Irony becomes our shield, sarcasm our currency, and depth, a burden too heavy to carry. It's not that people don't care, it's that they're exhausted. And shallow content, it's fast, it's fun, and most importantly, it doesn't hurt. Let's not overlook biology. Shallow content hits the brain like junk food: quick, salty, addictive. Every like, swipe, notification pumps dopamine into our system. It rewards instantly. No patience needed, no delayed gratification, just a quick hit. And just like junk food, the more we consume, the more we crave, and the harder it is to return to what's nourishing. A 3,000-word essay feels daunting. A serious documentary feels like work. And the algorithm knows this. It keeps feeding what's easy, never what's right. Here we are, a society seduced by simplicity, addicted to immediacy, rewired to avoid effort. Not because we're lazy, but because the system taught us that shallow is safer, faster, and more pleasurable. That might be the most dangerous lesson of all. But here's what we rarely admit. This isn't just about individual choices. Millions didn't spontaneously abandon depth. The system was designed to reward the shallow. The platforms we use, the content we see, the attention economy, none of it is neutral. This shallowness is no accident. It's algorithmic. Social media doesn't care for truth or complexity. It cares only about how long you stay. And what keeps you scrolling isn't critical thought, it's emotional reaction, rage, envy, lust, laughter, whatever raises your pulse and shuts off your brain. That's what algorithms push, not wisdom, not truth, but bait for primal instincts. Because that's what fuels ad revenue. The market follows. Entertainment isn't here to enlighten, it's here to profit from attention, and stupidity sells better than brilliance. A fake feud between influencers generates more clicks than a Nobel lecture. A drama-filled stream beats a documentary. A controversial tweet spreads wider than the truth. Why? Chaos is lucrative, outrage is marketable, and ignorance, if packaged well, is good business. News media isn't exempt. Speed over accuracy, spectacle over substance. Complex stories are reduced to headlines. Nuance becomes binary conflict. The loudest voices rise, those who can package fear, blame, and false certainty into 30-second bites. That drives ratings. That wins elections. And politics? Today's politicians thrive not on policy knowledge, but performance. The more extreme the stance, the more attention it earns. Simplicity beats truth. Governing has become branding. We don't elect leaders, we elect content creators. In this world, anyone daring to speak with nuance is drowned out. Before blaming ourselves, we must see the bigger picture. We live in a system that feeds our impulses, not our intellect. A system that profits from confusion, distraction, and division. The glorification of ignorance wasn't an accident. It was built, refined, and optimized for engagement. The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't a bug. It's the plan. So, what happens when ignorance is rewarded, intellect punished, and culture trained to prefer simplicity over truth? The result isn't just a shallow feed, it's a lost generation, a society adrift. Because what starts as a cultural trend turns into a civilizational crisis. Young people grow up in a world where thoughtfulness is mocked, where asking questions makes you dull, where the loudest become heroes. So they adapt. They learn it's safer to act dumb, to be funny, bright, and non-threatening instead of curious, serious, or ambitious. Intelligence once admired now feels socially expensive. Many hide it and slowly forget it was there. Meanwhile, education systems that nurtured critical thought are devalued and dismissed. Teachers are overworked. Humanities are cut. Philosophy, history, ethics, disciplines that form the mind, are deemed irrelevant in a market obsessed with profit. Students are told to pursue what earns, not what gives meaning. And we wonder why they feel lost. At the same time, those who rise to fame are often famous for nothing but fame. No invention, no insight, just exposure. Influencers offer no vision beyond their next brand deal. We reward those who exploit attention, not those who expand understanding. In this world, the thoughtful retreat. Philosophers, scientists, deep thinkers become silent minorities, drowned by spectacle. The cultural mic is held by the least informed and most confident. The cost? When wisdom vanishes, so does our ability to solve real problems: climate change, public health, political division, crises needing nuance, patience, and difficult truths. But how can society respond wisely when it spent decades rejecting wisdom? When facts are called bias and complexity called manipulation? This is how societies lose their way. Not in one moment, but through countless small choices to pick ease over effort, noise over depth, surface over substance. Until one day, we find those in charge don't grasp the problems they're solving, citizens don't trust the few who do, and institutions that once guided us lose meaning because we stop believing thought matters. If this continues, the future won't be led by the best, but by the loudest and most marketable. Yet beneath the noise, something else stirs. Not everyone is giving in. A quiet resistance grows. It isn't loud or trending, but it's real. Many, especially the young, are questioning this system. They push back against shallowness, distraction, and digital overload. They're not shouting, they're unplugging. You'll see it in digital minimalism. Young people choosing less screen time, fewer apps, more intention. They're deleting social media, reading long books, writing by hand, choosing depth over dopamine, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. They see that endless stimulation doesn't enrich life, it empties it. Against all odds, long-form content returns. Podcasts lasting hours, filled with nuance, silence, even disagreement, gather loyal audiences. Conversations with thinkers like Lex Fridman, Sam Harris, Andrew Huberman reach millions. No flashy cuts, no viral hooks, just honest, slow dialogue on things that matter. And people listen. Perhaps we crave depth more than the system admits. Education, too, is quietly evolving. While mainstream institutions chase market degrees, small colleges and independent programs revive education's soul. They teach philosophy, logic, critical thought. Students read Plato, Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius, not for jobs, but to become human. In a distracted world, learning to think is radical. Even self-help culture is shifting. The loudest still preach dopamine hacks. But beneath it, a quieter wave grows. People journaling, practicing stoicism, meditating not for productivity, but for clarity. They're not chasing virality, but meaning, finding it in ancient wisdom, dense books, real conversation. These aren't banner revolutions. They're mental revolutions, small, disciplined, invisible to algorithms. But they're happening. People are waking up to the cost of shallow living, choosing silence over noise, reflection over reaction, substance over spectacle. They may not trend, but they represent something stronger than a moment, a shift, a countercurrent, proof that not all are willing to drown in cultural shallows, that some choose to dive deep, even when told to float. So what do you do when your world praises the shallow? When ignorance is profitable and depth feels like exile? You don't fight noise with noise. You don't outshout chaos. You walk the harder road, quieter, slower, more deliberate. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only road leading somewhere real. It begins with you, with the questions you dare ask yourself. Are you thinking or merely reacting? Seeking truth or validation? Are you willing to be intellectually uncomfortable? Because growth lives outside echo chambers. It thrives when ideas are challenged, when certainty is replaced with curiosity. Then it shapes your habits, not dramatic shifts, but small, deliberate acts. Read a little longer than usual. Watch something that stretches you, not just entertains. Share something online, not because it's popular, but because it's true. Engage with ideas that take effort, that demand context, that don't fit into a caption. Choose what nourishes, not just what stimulates, because your mind becomes what you feed it. Then comes community. Find people who care for meaning, not just memes. People who want deeper conversations, not just trending ones. Seek dialogues that go beyond opinions, that ask why. Build spaces online or offline where thought is valued, where disagreement is safe, where saying "I don't know" is welcome. Above all, your attitude matters. Don't pretend to be less intelligent to comfort others. Don't play dumb to fit in, because the longer you fake it, the more you risk forgetting who you are. The world doesn't need more fake smiles and performative ignorance. It needs people willing to stay awake, people unafraid of being misunderstood if it means speaking truth, people who believe depth matters, even when the world rejects it. You're not here to fight the system with noise. You're here to live differently within it, to choose differently, to carry the torch of thought in an age of distraction, to remain a small, steady light in a world dimming itself. Because culture doesn't change top-down. It shifts one choice, one mind at a time. And maybe, if enough of us choose to think deeper, question harder, and live more consciously, shallowness won't be the only thing that wins anymore.